built to distort, why AI will never reflect human wisdom. In theory, I should be willing to trust artificial intelligence. After all, it is built on us. Its training data is scraped from human output, our words, our images, our recorded knowledge. If that is true, then regardless of its speed and scale, AI should more or less act like us. And since humanity has not yet destroyed itself or the planet outright, one might expect AI to simply give us more of what we already do, just faster, broader, and perhaps a little different. That expectation is comforting. It suggests that AI is simply a magnifying glass held over humanity. Whatever we are, it will reflect back, only larger. But this expectation is also misleading, because when we look closely, we find that AI is not built on the whole of humanity. It is built on fragments, and those fragments are not neutral. They are skewed toward certain kinds of voices, certain kinds of lives, and certain kinds of incentives. There are two problems here. One we can set aside, the other much less so. Problem 1. The rules of control. AI is not free to think as it wishes. Its learning is reinforced, its outputs shaped by rules, filters, and guardrails. In theory, this is dangerous because the people making those rules may be negligent or malicious in their use of power. They may bend the system toward their own interests or simply fail to anticipate its consequences. For example, a company might design an AI to maximize engagement on a platform. The rule seems simple. Keep people clicking, scrolling, and returning. But the unintended consequence is that the AI learns to promote outrage, misinformation, or addictive content because those are the things that keep people hooked. The designers may not have intended to corrode public discourse, but the rule they set in place all but guaranteed it. This is not a hypothetical. We have already seen how social media algorithms, optimized for engagement, have fueled polarization, spread conspiracy theories, and undermined trust in institutions. These systems are not rogue. They are doing exactly what they were told to do: maximize engagement. The problem is that the objective itself was too narrow, blind to the broader consequences. This is the real danger. Yet, it is not the deepest one, because rules, in theory, can be improved. With enough oversight, iteration, and correction, perhaps the guardrails will eventually be gotten right. Governments can regulate, companies can adjust, watchdogs can intervene. For the sake of argument, let us set this problem aside. Problem 2, the data. And this is where the real danger lies. The deeper problem is not the rules, but the raw material itself. AI is not built on the full spectrum of humanity. It is built on the subset of humanity that publishes, posts, and performs. Its training data comes disproportionately from elites, business leaders, scientists, journalists, artists, and those motivated to share their lives online. What is missing is the quiet wisdom of ordinary people, the nurse working double shifts, the parent balancing bills, the worker enduring a job they dislike. Their knowledge of how to live an unexceptional but stable life rarely makes it into the dataset, unless someone is motivated to turn their private life into public content. Their experience is invisible to AI, and that motivation to perform one's life for others, that is not normal. It is closer to the drive of an artist, and artists, as history shows, often live tortured lives. This is why it is reasonable to say that AI cannot understand normal. Normal life is precisely what does not get published, amplified, or performed. It is the background hum of existence, the compromises, routines, and quiet acts of endurance that make societies possible. AI cannot learn this because it cannot see it, and even if we tried to make it visible, the very act of performance would distort it. The ordinary, once staged for an audience, ceases to be ordinary. Consider the difference between a diary and a memoir. Billions of people keep diaries, but only a handful publish memoirs. The memoirs are what get scraped into the dataset. The diaries, which might contain the most honest reflections on how people actually live, are private and invisible. AI, then, is trained on the memoirs of the world, not the diaries. It learns from the exceptional, not the ordinary. And so it cannot grasp what normal really is. The consequence of distorted mirrors. This distortion matters. Consider the kind of advice that circulates in the performative sphere. An artist, for example, may survive by tearing themselves apart in public, confessing their pain, dramatizing their struggles, and living off the esteem of fans who reward their vulnerability with attention. For the artist, this bargain can be survivable, even sustaining, because their livelihood depends on performance. But for a normal person, such advice would be ruinous. Most people cannot live by constantly exposing their wounds to the world. They cannot survive by making their private pain into public spectacle. To attempt it would not bring stability or esteem. It will bring exhaustion, humiliation, and collapse. Now, consider governments. A government that treats nihilism, the rejection of meaning, the embrace of power for its own sake, as a normative strategy may find it particularly useful in the short term. It can destabilize opponents, justify cruelty, and consolidate power. But over time, such a strategy corrodes the very fabric of society. Citizens lose trust in institutions. shared norms disintegrate, cooperation becomes impossible. What remains is not stability, but corrosion, not order, but decay. Just look at current polling numbers and you'll see it. 20% approval ratings? History gives us examples. In the late stages of the Roman Empire, leaders often resorted to spectacle and brutality to maintain control, distracting citizens with bread and circuses, while hollowing out the institutions that once sustained civic life. In the 20th century, authoritarian regimes that embraced propaganda and disinformation as governing tools often achieved short-term dominance, but left behind societies scarred by mistrust, cynicism, and corruption. When meaning itself is treated as disposable, the result is not resilience, but rot. If AI is trained on the performative extremes, then its outputs will normalize those extremes. It will amplify the exceptional and the tortured while neglecting the ordinary and the sustainable. The result is not a mirror of humanity, but a funhouse reflection, magnifying what is unusual while erasing what is common. And because AI cannot understand normal, it cannot correct for this distortion. It cannot remind us of balance or endurance or quiet stability. It can only echo the extremes. Why this is more dangerous than it seems. The danger, then, is not simply that AI is biased. Bias suggests a tilt that can be corrected, a slant that can be balanced. The deeper danger is that AI is structurally incapable of representing the wisdom of ordinary life. It cannot teach us how to live quietly, how to endure, how to sustain. It cannot understand normal, because normal is not written down, not performed, not digitized. This is why AI is more dangerous than most people think. It is not just a captured system in the hands of elites. It is also a distorted system, trained on the wrong sample of humanity, and that distortion may be impossible to fix, because the missing data, the unspoken lives of billions, will never be published, scraped, or digitized. Even if we tried to correct for this, how would we do it? Would we ask every person on earth to record their daily routines, their private struggles, the quiet acts of endurance, and upload them for the sake of balance? Even if they did, would those records be honest? Or would they, too, become performative once they were meant for public consumption? We know from polling that people often give the answer that they think they're supposed to give, rather than the one that they will actually act upon. Therefore, the very act of publishing changes the nature of the content. The ordinary, once performed, is no longer ordinary, and so the gap remains unbridgeable. Closing thought. In theory, AI should be trustworthy because it is built on us, but in practice, it is built on the loudest, most unusual fragments of mankind, and a society that mistakes those fragments for the whole will not find wisdom. It will find drift. It will find distortion. It will find corrosion. And if left unchecked, it will find collapse. The tragedy is that collapse will not come with a bang, but with a slow erosion of trust, a gradual normalization of extremes, and a steady disappearance of the ordinary wisdom that has always held societies together. If we want AI to serve humanity, we must first recognize that humanity is more than the fragments that shout the loudest. It is also the billions who endure quietly, whose wisdom is invisible, but whose lives form the foundation of everything else.